Wide receiver dynasty stashes. What makes a good stash? Like, what are we looking for when we are trying to stash one of these wide receivers that are out there? What are the things we're looking for? We always talk about value is like, what's the value of that player right now? How are people actually feeling about that player right now? Looking at those things and where people value things, guys could be on waiver wires. These guys could be thrown in on trades for absolutely nothing. Any of the trades that you make now in the offseason, can you get one of these guys thrown in? So that's one of the things that I would say is that we look at is just what is the value out there that these guys are looked at the moment. And one of the second things would be obviously what is their potential, right? What do we see as their potential? What do we see can pan out? What is the potential of not only themselves, but what's the potential of their situation that could become next year? And of course, it's all like hypothetical. Okay, what if this happens? What if that happens? But that's what it is. That's the game that we play, that we try to get ahead of on. Now you're going to swing and you're going to miss sometimes, but these are guys that they're not expensive. Like if you miss, you miss. It doesn't kill you. Do you have anything to add to those things as far as what are we kind of looking at here as far as what makes a good stash for you?
Some things I definitely look at is number one, their situation in general, and that can stem from the organization as a whole. Like sometimes you trust organizations to develop certain guys, right? And one organization that comes to mind, I'm not going to say the Packers, is the Steelers developing wide receivers, right? For a long time, they were just churning out wide receivers, right? You could go back to Hines Ward. You can go back to Plexico Burris. You can go to, remember, Mike Wallace played well for that team, right? Antonio Brown came out of nowhere. And the Steelers were just churning out wide receivers. So another thing, just to add on top of everything you said, which I definitely agree, is the organizations. Right now, you take it to the flip side, and you look at an organization like the New England Patriots, who don't churn out wide receivers, right? So that matters to me as well, is the development and the organizational structure and the history, thereof, of developing these guys. So I look at that, and that's a factor to me.
Yeah. Situation of what they're in now and what could be next year, right? And on top of that, another important part that I'm always taking a look at is contract situations, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When can teams get out early? We just talked about Tyler Lockett. Like they have a chance to get off of Tyler Lockett next year. It doesn't cost them anything. And that's why, JSN is a huge buy, a guy that kind of we're all looking forward to, right? So,
Yep.
looking at the contract situations and those, some of those older players as well. Not only just that guy that we think could be the stash, what the guys on their teams, like Marty has here in the comments, some of the older guys, right?
And we talked about something else that ties into what you're saying, is the contract of the player themselves. But what about their contract of the quarterback that they play with, right? We love
Mhm.
Jamar Chase so much because he's going to be tied to Joe Burrow for a long time, right? Where maybe Justin Jefferson, and we brought this up on another show. Listen, Justin Jefferson's going to be amazing regardless, for the most part, of who the quarterback is. But we talked about Jamar Chase maybe vaulting JJ as the dynasty wide receiver one because he's tied to Joe Burrow. So that's also another important factor to look at. And Joe Burrow's going to be there for a long time. It's probably 99.9% that Jamar Chase is going to be re-upped to stay along with Joe Burrow. So that's another key element in terms of, what you're looking at with the quarterback contract situation, because the wide receiver is a dependent position for the most part.
And again, these aren't guys that we think are going to be the next, top 10 wide receivers. We just think that these guys that we're talking about here are guys that can gain value going into next season or at next season at some point, or can help you and that really don't cost you much right now. So guys that you can get for, extremely cheap. And we'll talk about a ton of more guys as we get into, the off season and all that, where guys are tremendously cheap at that point.
And just to put a little cherry on top of that, on what you said, is some of these guys as well, if they do play well when they get the burn, they can be that cherry on the top that you add to something, right? Like that's something that we haven't talked about, going through this. So, if you add a Dontavian Wicks on top of it, if you add a Parker Washington coming off a good game, or some of these guys that have, not great production, but you've seen them go out there and make some plays, that could be the deal that could seal the deal for you if you add in one of these kind of, stash guys on top of your deal.
Exactly. Marty said, sign up things to come with Eli Moore or a sell high candidate. And it's a good question. I mean, I was on Keep Trade Cut earlier today, and he's like wide receiver like 57 or 59, something in the late 50s. That's what he is ranked on Keep Trade Cut, which is extremely low. I mean, I at least for me, I feel like his value can increase and give you a better sell position or sell window in the future. Not it might not be right now, but I think that time will come at a certain point, and I'm not ready to get off of him yet because I don't think I can get as good as a return as I could in the future. So for me, I'm holding him for now until that time comes that I can move off him, or if I need to add him in a trade to get somebody that I want, then I'm okay with doing that as well. But yeah, I'm not at the moment selling him. I don't think we're at that sell high point right now. What do you think, Hammer?
Yeah, and this is everything we talked about during our trade episode is timing, right? Timing is extremely
Mhm.
important when when you're deciding on if you want to hold, buy, sell, or hold. So, and I think
Yep.
that's kind of what you're talking about right there. So the timing factor is incredibly important.